So welcome to the People Performance Podcast, where we discuss all things people performance. The People Performance Podcast is made up of 3 series. First up, we have the Leader Lounge episodes with me, the founder. Then we have the guest interview episodes. And finally, we have the performance episodes delivered by the T2 consultants. If after listening to our podcast, you want to get in touch with T2 about anything we do, please contact us at help@trans2performance.com. You can stream or listen to our podcast on all the usual platforms available. So for now, sit back, tune in, and enjoy the People Performance Podcast.
Coming up on this episode.
Kids generally thrive when they are safe and secure. They have love, care, and affection unconditionally, where that is equally balanced with boundaries, expectations, and discipline.
Currently, we're facing a national crisis. We've got a shortage of over 5,000 foster carers across the UK. You know, every 15 minutes a child comes into care. And I say it all the time, it still blows my mind when I say that. Every 15 minutes a child comes into the care system.
Is that the stat? Every 15 minutes? So welcome to the People Performance Podcast with me, Martin Johnson.
And me, Gareth Webb.
You nearly missed it there, Gareth. You nearly missed it. Gareth, welcome to the podcast, mate. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome, mate. It might be worth, I'll get you to introduce yourself a little bit more in a while, but Gareth and I met at the T2 Leadership Retreat, properly at the T2 Leadership Retreat. I want to say this year. It was this year, wasn't it? It was this year. And we spent 3 days and nights together. You took part in our leadership retreat. It was great getting to know you. I know you threw yourself into it. And what struck a chord with me was what you do and how you do it and the meaning behind it. So I asked Gareth if he wanted to come on the podcast and be interviewed, and you've jumped at the chance. So thank you for your time, mate. Gareth, you are the current, is it MD or Chief Exec? MD, we'll go.
MD, yeah.
Current Managing Director of Fairways, which is a charity, a fostering and children's charity. Do you want to just elaborate on that a bit more, Gareth? What is it that Fairways do? How long have you been there? And, you know, how do you find yourself in this position of MD after all these years?
So Fairways, we're a children's and families charity, like you say. We've been going for about 20 years. We started off with 1 children's home and a handful of foster carers, and now we've got like 500 staff. We've got 18 regulated services by Ofsted. So we deliver predominantly services for young people in the care system. So we've got children's homes, we've got foster carers, we've got special schools, we've got independent living, we've got family assessment centres. We've got a real broad range of services we can offer young people in the care system, and a positive pathway forward, really. So I joined quite uniquely, really. I sort of fell into it. So I'm born and bred Portsmouth, and I hated school. Nearly got kicked out of school. Did lots of different jobs when I left. I tried engineering, tried working in retail, hated it. And then I got a job in the gym. I started training, and I loved personal training. And I worked on the doors. It was bouncers back then, but I think they're called door security now. But I worked at the gym and I was training this guy, and he worked for a children's charity called Cornerstone, which was just before Fairways broke. And they used to take children up and down the country to secure units and back to court. So if you're sort of under 16 and you commit a crime, for example, as a young person, you'd get put in a secure unit. But because there's a massive shortage across the country, you could live in Southampton and be placed in Scotland, for example, but you still got to come back for your court dates. So you have a secure team, because they're children, you don't handcuff them. So you'd have 2 adults with a child and a driver. And he done his up and down the country, and he said, "Oh, you'd be good at that, especially while at work. The door, you're really good at talking to people, communicating." So I was like, "Oh, get me in." And I went to the interview and got the job. And I guess from there was 20 years ago is where my passion grew, and I found something I really loved. And it was brilliant, because the children are still children, and what you start to learn is they've got they've come from trauma, all these difficult backgrounds, and there's reasons potentially why they behave they do. But so I fell into it, and then from there I just started picking up roles with young people with autism, disabilities in the community, and from there I grew as a support worker, really. So, and then Fairways split, So Cornerstone at the time, Fairways Growth with the CEO at the time, Matt McHugh, took Fairways, one children's home, handful of carers, said, Gareth, do you want to come over? So I was like, yeah, why not? And then I guess that's my career started from there as a support worker. I've just worked my way up through the organisation and now I'm the managing director. Yeah. So I fell into it.
And that's an amazing story for a couple of reasons. I think number one, a lot of the work we do here at T2 on performance psychology, leadership, understanding the brain, understanding your thoughts, feelings, where they come from, how that drives everything. When we work with adults who are in senior positions or in teams or whatever it might be, a lot of what you're working with has already been programmed and happened from such a young age. Your brain development at that age, your parental influence, your societal influence, your educational years, you almost arrive at full brain development in your 20s, 30s, and you are highly programmed through those things. And so the work you do is so meaningful because you're getting to these kids at an age where it really matters. And talk about purpose, Gareth, that must get you out of bed every day. You must not struggle for purpose. Purpose being the reason why you do what you do.
100%. And, I often speak about that, especially when new staff join. My why is about, look, we got one opportunity to make a difference to these children's lives. It's not a dress rehearsal. And there's so many care organisations out there. And actually, when they come to us, I want it to be different. I want us to be good, positive role models. I don't want us to give up. I want us to give the best possible care and education and support. A lot of the young people that come to us have been through 10, 15 placements already. Because we are the private sector, we tend to get the children that have been through the system a lot more. So I only want, and I'll be, I don't make no apologies, that I only want staff to want to be here and wake up every day to make a difference. Because if you don't, that's fine. But we can't play with these children's lives. So that's the passion. I'm very fortunate to have been on the journey with Fairways and develop services for these young people. And now I'm in a position to lead them and create opportunities for young people. So yeah, I feel very privileged. I don't take it for granted. Um, don't get me wrong, it's tough some days, but that's my why. It's about getting out of bed and making a difference, to these young people.
And you need that so much because I'm assuming that in the charitable sector, unlike the corporate world and other sectors, you ain't blessed with being able to be financially, it's not all financial. And actually, you're not blessed with the big, at times, salaries and bonus schemes and all the rest of it. In fact, even just getting funding on a yearly basis is a full-time job, right? So, it's that trade-off between going, we're going to be under-resourced and we've got an incredibly important job, and I'm not going to get paid the astronomical amounts of money that you would do in the private sector, but I've got children's lives in my hands. And that fascinates me, that, because it's like the purpose trumps everything else, really, even when that's tough, even when the resources out there. Do you know, even when you have those moments, Gareth, and you think, why am I doing this? Surely it's just a matter of aligning back with the purpose that gets you back in the room. Would that be fair to say?
100%, knowing that the money that we make goes back into our services and not to venture capitalists or going out to shareholders. That was one of the reasons why we wanted to be a charity, is that we couldn't be bought out, that all our money was reinvested. So we know, when you're having tough days, you're trying to do your best you can. At least everything is going back to them young people and families, which makes it definitely aligns with your sense of purpose and why we do what we do,
Love that.
trying to make a difference.
Love that. Let's go into leadership then. So you've a fascinating story there. You fell into it. You've traveled up and down the country escorting people and looking after people. You've then been a carer. You've then gone through the system, and all of a sudden you find yourself as managing director of the whole thing. What's your philosophy on leadership? What's your leadership journey been like, Gareth? Have you worked it out along the way, or and what at this moment in time do you go, I think this is what I stand for when it comes to leadership and leading teams?
Yeah, when I reflect back, if like even before Fairways, I think I sort of found myself into sort of leadership or lead roles just by default. Like even running your own personal training business. You're leading that. That's your business. Working on a door, you was like, doing security work, close protection. It was like the head of that, become the head of the security. And I don't know. For me, I think it's I've learned a lot, I guess, from certain individuals over the past, and I've also learned what not to do, and be, that authoritarian approach. And I've worked for bullies before, and you just think, wow, I guess that's what you don't want to be like. Um, but yeah, I guess I've learned a lot along the way. Um, I think what's been really good for me is I've started from the bottom, and I've worked my way up. And it's a bit like, the legacy, sweeping the sheds and stuff. I still do that now. Even when I was a director of education in Fairways, I would still be on the front line. And I think because I know I've got the knowledge and skill set, and I've come from the front line, I hope to think I've got more respect when decision making and more knowledge around what staff go through and what young people go through. So I think for me, practice first, and then after that, I've done sort of my social work, social qualifications, degrees. I've done a master's as well in education management and leadership. And you could really link then the evidence-based practice to the research. So yeah, I've been very fortunate. I think Fairways have been very supportive in terms of my journey. Um, but I think for me, I take quite a collaborative approach to leadership, and um, probably since COVID, more transformational in terms of, constant change and being able to make sure that we are, building services and impacting on young people and staff with everything that's going on in society and all the government changes, et cetera, et cetera. So there's been a lot of different types of leadership I think you take on at times as well. Um, and I've got a really good team around me that, I've recruited over time, people that live up my values and our values. And I guess I've never been shy of, if they're not the right fit, then, you need to move on. Yeah, and to create a team around me.
That's an important point you make there, Gareth. Yes, leadership is about all of the so-called good stuff or the sexy stuff. It's about developing people, building cultures, reward and recognition. It's about making a difference. But you mentioned there, and I like the fact you've mentioned it, even in the charitable sector, although people are genuinely doing a good thing and sacrificing their potential higher rewards in the corporate sector, you're still here to do a job and commit and show the right behaviors. And if you're not, you might not be right for us. And you might not, don't be on the bus and moan about being on the bus or not contribute, right? And so I observe a lot in our clients and in great leaders that they're equally willing to say, if you're not right, I'll call it out or we'll address it, because it's a bigger problem having people behind a cause who are not truly behind it for whatever reason or able to contribute towards it, Gareth, for whatever that might be.
100%. Yeah. It's about respect for me and being transparent. You want people that, I'll have their backs, but also you want them to have yours, don't you? And it's like, and if you're not, like you said, like that on the bus, or you got one foot off the bus, that's no good to me, because we work in a very challenging environment. We work with young people with trauma, and that transfers onto the staff team. So I'm very big on trying to ensure that everyone always gets to the balcony. Think, right, actually, what amongst all the noise, what's the decision here we need to make as a team, as a united front moving forward? So we're all on board rather than working in silos and not having that connection. So yeah, I'm
Because
really big on that.
my experience of you, Gareth, is you're quite, and I mean this in a way because it's quite interesting that you start off saying you've worked the doors and you've been a bouncer, and if you meet you like you say, you go to the gym, you look after yourself. Like me, you've got tattoos, but you've got a real soft, gentle side to you as well, a real humanistic, warm side to you. I experienced that throughout the entire retreat. But there's also then a serious moment where don't take that for granted, because if I need to challenge something or if I need to speak up and address something, I will. And it's about dialing that up in the right moments, isn't it? Otherwise,
100%. Yeah.
people do take advantage of, I've seen it before, of humanistic leaders' nice nature, and they think they can push boundaries and get away. And I think as long as we're willing to dial up that assertiveness at times, that's the key to it, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And you're right. I've had that probably most of my career. I've turned up and, oh, I wasn't expecting it like a builder. I wasn't expecting, but or I've had comments in the past. Oh, how could he be nurturing with children? But you know, and I'm far from it. I think it's about respect, and these young people have been through enough, and it's not about. For me, I hate that of being that authoritative approach, and actually, it's getting on the level with people, young people and staff, and treating and making a connection, relationships. That's key.
Well, on that, let me ask you a question. I know I'm putting you on the spot. So, if you was to describe your leadership style in 3 words,
Three
and you had
words.
to
Okay.
cherry pick 3 words to say, look, ultimately, my philosophy or my approach always is consistent with this. What 3 words would you select?
That's a good question. 3 words. I think supportive. I think definitely supportive. Um, Decisive. And that's a third one. That's a
This
good.
is just proof that we don't plan the questions. We don't arm them with the intelligence they need beforehand. But yeah, take your
And
time with it. So you've got supportive and decisive, which again, they absolutely can go hand in hand, but they can tug at each other because sometimes you need to be decisive and make a decision, and that might affect people or affect others. So you've got to know when to dial one up and over the other for sure. Third one,
I think diligent in terms of like, a lot of people say like the diets. If you're going to go to Gareth, make sure you've got all the information you need. Because I guess the role I do is I've got my fingers in lots of different pies, I guess, and I sort of manage some very skillful expertise, and it's about um, not enabling them and delegating to them, but also, like I said, getting to the balcony and making sure that we're all on the same page when we make decisions, because one decision over there impacts over here. So it's being diligent about the information and about really understanding what's the risk in that decision making, what's the impact to that. Let's all just think about that. We all on board, right? Let's move forward together. So yeah,
yeah. So supportive, decisive, and diligence, and I get that third one, Gareth. You are definitely considered. You will look at the data, you'll look at the knowledge. You want to work things out rationally rather than just go on a gut feeling. Sometimes you need time. Sometimes you need more information. Don't you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, I get that one. Let me shift target before I come back to the charity towards the end of this episode. So, if I may, I want to dig into a little bit around what you're doing, like what we said earlier, the importance of working with our children during critical brain development. We're in this really strange period of time in society, aren't we? Where I talk about it in the book, Gareth, in Pain and Pleasure, where we've gone from many years through generations where it's quite an autocratic parenting style. We've always laid the law down. We've traditionally gone back into generations. We've disciplined kids. We've smacked kids. We've done a lot, and then we've gone through to this more progressive modern day world where actually it's not about any of those things because that can be detrimental. It's about love, care, and affection. It's about giving them freedom and space and expression. And many are saying maybe we've gone too far on that side now, and the children of today are not having the same level of discipline, boundaries, and accountability that there was. It's like the seesaw has tipped from one extreme to the other. I've always maintained, Gareth, and I speak to people a lot because even though we do leadership training and team dynamics, it always goes into people asking about their kids and parenting, right? It literally does. We all doubt parenting the way we parent and if we're getting that balance right. But I talk about that word balance and I say, look, generally when we look at the psychology behind brain development, kids generally thrive when they are safe and secure. They have love, care, and affection unconditionally, where that is equally balanced with boundaries, expectations, and discipline. And where we can have the balance of the two, that's what we want to achieve. Would you agree with that? You've seen so much in your time and you live and breathe this every day. Would you agree with that? And this is a big question, but if there was any advice to parents out there, you know, of trying to get it right when we're all second guessing ourselves, what are the things you've picked up over the years?
I agree. I think it's in terms of things have changed a lot, haven't they? My children is 26, 22, and 18. And you just see the difference they go to, the technology these days. Before you'd walk, 3 rows down to to go and see your friend, and you walk down there, they might not be in, then you walk back. Now you've got 2 seconds on the phone to speak to your friend. Just the world is, phones, AI, the internet has just exposed young people to the whole world, and that's pretty scary. And I think that's probably hard to relate to as well for us at times. But for me, like, we work with young people that have encountered a lot of trauma in early childhood, and the impact that that's had on them and their development, and then the trauma again of coming into the care system and constantly having all these different adults and change and breakdowns, and these young people have been put there, and it's not their fault, and it's primary, like you touched on, is creating safety, you know. But what's that safety look like for some young people is very different to another young person. But to it's an environment for them to feel safe, and I think it's the big thing these days is about talking and communicating and understanding and allowing young people to express how they feel, and talk about what's going on for them, but connecting with that and recognizing that, and that level of respect, that just because they're a child doesn't mean to say that that's not real for them or the feelings aren't real for them. But the biggest thing is that safety and feeling safe, not just physically but emotionally, to be able to express how they talk. Sorry, so they can express and talk about their feelings. But
Yeah.
definitely that sense of safety is needed.
Yeah, and I love that, and I concur with that, and I often say to people, there's a difference between there's a difference between safety and love, and then complete showering them with everything they ever want to a point of a sense of entitlement without the even sort of experience of going without or having to delay gratification or whatever it might be. It's such a hard job being a parent. I always say this, guys, like I've been in the military, no problem. Building a business, no problem. Anything else I've ever done, but being a dad to my 3 kids is possibly my hardest challenge of my lifetime. And every day you're trying to get it right and improve yourself and make sure that you get them out the other end. Mine are 16, 15, and 10. So I'm not quite where you are, but we're not a million miles away. So it's a big responsibility. And I know a lot of people worry about it. Um, so balance, safety is the most important thing. Cool. All right. So, talk to me a little bit, Gareth, to before I finish with my final killer question. Talk to me around the fostering initiative you guys have been doing with businesses in the corporate world, because we talked about the fact of you want to be sustainable. There's a massive need for more foster carers in the UK, a huge need, and there's a huge drive to give these kids opportunities and spaces to be able to flourish. What is the initiative and how are you getting on with it?
So, but currently we're doing a massive drive on trying to get businesses to become fostering friendly employers. So currently we're facing a national crisis. We've got a shortage of over 5,000 foster carers across the UK. Every 15 minutes a child comes into the care. And I say it all the time, it still blows my mind when I say that. Every 15 minutes a
Is that
child
the
comes into the
stat?
care system.
Is that the stat every 15
That
minutes?
is crazy. We get around 200 referrals a day to place children in our services. It blows my mind. There's over 100,000 children in the care system at any one time. But when a child comes into the care, the most important and the first port of call is a foster placement. You always want to try and place a child into a family environment to ensure that they get the nurturing and the care that they deserve. So if they can't go with family or immediate family, you want them in a foster placement so they can still learn to grow and have the coaching and the role models of a family. But there's a national crisis, there's a shortage. So the fostering network have got an initiative where they run it across the country. They've got about 200 employees on their books, where basically all we ask is to raise the awareness amongst businesses to say and beat the myth that you can't still work full time and foster, because you absolutely can. It's just like having a child yourself. Don't get me wrong. There's all different types of fostering, but the idea is to get fostering for any employee to go, right, do you know what? We will allow up to any member of staff 3 days a year off work so they can go do some foster care training, and up to 5 days of flexibility to attend care meetings or education meetings. a bit similar, like, you would for your own children, Martin. If someone turned around and said, "Oh, I've got a parents' evening, or can I come in 2 hours late because I need to attend their school meeting?" Most likely you go, "Yeah, sure, make the hours up," or whatever that looks like. So it's just opening up the awareness. So I went to the fostering network and said, "Look, I'd like to pick up on your initiative and aim for 50 businesses." And they were like, "Wow, brilliant. That's quite ambitious, but yeah, go for it." So I started a big campaign in Portsmouth where we're based. Um, and I've done a lot of networking, and well, we're about 80 businesses now on our books, which is fantastic. And we're going to be the first city in the UK to be fostering friendly, Portsmouth, because we've got so many businesses in one location. So it's really exciting, but we need more foster carers. So, and it's free, it's easy to do, and all businesses have to do is just to allow some flexibility for their members of staff.
So from the business's perspective, because I know I've done this with you as well. You sign up as a foster friendly employer. That's no financial commitment on the business's side. All you're saying is our commitment, our pledge is if any of our staff wanted to become foster carers, we will allow them this flexibility and time to go and train how to do it, to go and attend some meetings. That will then encourage more people to consider being a foster carer without the worry of their career, their jobs, whatever it might be. That's it.
100%, 100%. And you never know. I know there's actually a member of staff that works for you that uh, an unexpected situation happened. Uh, Someone they knew that they had to support with a bit of fostering for a period of time. So, and it can happen to anyone, but also it's allowing staff to step forward, and it links to that sense of purpose, like we said earlier. These children never asked to come into the system. And then the amount of children, if we can get them into foster placements, are more likely to have a positive outcome. When you look at the prison system, it's around 48% of people in prison were in the care system. You look at the people on homelessness, 46% of the homeless population were in care. So if we can get more young people into the foster carers and trying to give them an opportunity and a life chance, we can break that cycle. And that's what it's about. It's about raising awareness. So that's the campaign, but it's going really well here.
Love that, Gareth. And I've got to say, the hairs went up on the back of my neck when you sort of said that last line there. It's such an amazing cause, and it's such a fantastic thing what Fairways and many other organisations like you do. So keep up. And if anybody listening to this podcast is interested in that initiative, is there some contact details? Is there a quick email address or a contact details they can get in touch, Gareth, to inquire more about what that looks like?
Yeah, if you just go onto our website, www.fairways.co, it is .co, um, click the link and you can just pop your details and one of the team will contact you. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Gareth Webb.
Awesome. Love that, Gareth. Right. To finish this podcast, I've got one last question for you. We always ask it to every guest who comes on the podcast. Primarily, we talk about leadership. Primarily, like you talk about your purpose, Gareth. Our purpose here at T2 is to develop the people of today, the leaders of tomorrow, which make better organizations for the future generations to work in. That's our mission, our purpose here at T2. So I always want to build our database with this question. Who is the greatest leader you have ever worked for, and why?
Okay. I'll just try and give this a bit of thought. I think, like I alluded to earlier, I've worked for different leaders, I guess, or managers that you certainly wouldn't want to be like, or certain traits. But I think, I guess it's a bit of an unusual one, but I would say it's probably the current CEO, Matt McHugh, is probably the greatest leader that I've worked for. And not because of his traits. If you know Mac, he's brilliant, but I think he's an 8-2, or 8-3 is his print
Free, even
profile.
age free. Yeah, it's my print twin, so I'm
Yeah. But what he did for me is he believed in me and he gave me opportunities. And I think that's the difference. And he give me autonomy to grow, develop, learn, make mistakes, learn. And I think if I would have had them opportunities, I definitely wouldn't be where I am now. I've come into roles that I weren't qualified to do and then got qualifications after. So, I was a head teacher of the special schools for sort of 8-9 years, which I would never have been given that opportunity, to do that. And I succeeded. So I'd say and I guess I try and do that to some of my team now and some staff that I've taken on that had no knowledge or expertise in this field, but like me, was given an opportunity, and now they're thriving. And it's for me, it's about having the attributes and the traits. That's what's key. Anyone could be the best, try and go university, but if you can't build relationships and work with young people and staff, then you're no good to anyone. You could have all the qualifications in the world, and I've seen that. I've seen directors that have come and I've had to move them on because yes, they've got all the skill, but they just haven't got them interpersonal skills and connection with people. So for me, I would say Mac has given me a lot of opportunities, and I'm very grateful for that. And I've we always joke, he was in the Navy, I was a door, working on the doors, and now we're running a successful charity that's doing a lot, very good for young people and families. So yeah, I'd say Mac, just for the opportunities and the belief in me and
I mean,
enabling me to.
you can't underestimate the word you used there, Gareth, was he believed in me. And you can't underestimate that. And I resonate with that myself so much. And I'll mention another name that we both know also works at Fairways with you, Wayne O'Kell. I put him in my first book in the acknowledgement section because as a young guy in the military who was growing up and very brash and very unself-aware, but incredibly driven and going places and had self-belief, everybody used to try and chop that down and say, you're too cocky, you're too this, you're too that. Wayne was the first person who believed in me. I can honestly say that in my life. He was the first person who went, Martin, you've got everything you need to succeed, but you need to channel it and you need to put it to good use. And I can always remember how that makes you feel as an individual when somebody looks at you and says, you've got this and you can go places and I'm right behind you. And there's a couple of people who have rose the ranks here at T2 who have said similar things to me. Nothing revolutionary, but Martin, you believe in me and that is everything. So I think that's a great way to end this podcast. And any leaders listening to this, Gareth, do you truly believe in individuals and people in your organization? But the second part of that is, if you do you let them know? Because in the end, sometimes leaders, they do, but they never share it or they never make the person feel that way. And then it's lost. It's pointless, right? Are you willing to share it and let that person know exactly what you think? And it doesn't matter if they mess up and it doesn't matter if things don't go to plan. You've got their back, you're right behind them and you believe in them. And I think that creates that psychological safety in individuals, doesn't it? And allows them to flourish.
Definitely. Yeah, no, 100%. I like that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Gareth, I could talk to you all day, mate. You are honestly, and I mean this sincerely, I always leave feeling a little bit inspired when we have our conversations. And it all started when you was relatively quiet over the first day or two at the retreat, just biding your time, inserting yourself into it. And then you took the stage on day 2 because one of the winning teams donated their prize to your charity. And I heard you speak for about, it must have been 4 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. The doorman with the tats is now on stage. He's now on stage and he's doing my job. He's doing my job and everybody's eating on the palm of your hands. And I was thinking there's more to this guy than anyone would imagine. So
Thank you.
hope you've enjoyed it, mate. It's been really good. If anybody's got any questions about what we've talked about today or wants to inquire further about Fairways or the Fostering Initiative, you can go onto the website, as Gareth says. You can even contact us at help@trans2performance.com and we'll facilitate the introduction to Gareth and the team. But other than that will do us for this episode. Gareth, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Feel very honoured. Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. And we'll be back shortly with another People Performance podcast.
The People Performance Podcast, brought to you by T2.